Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Thank you for joining me for the best expansions of board games hitting retail in February 2024. Expansions are interesting these days because I feel like it used to be the case that a game would come out and then several years later an expansion would come out to try to reinvigorate interest in the game, to try to get people new content to play. But more and more, we're also seeing expansions that are coming out at the same time as the game. They're releasing both at the same time. I don't really know why. It's just an interesting trend that I've noticed. So, we've got like 12 great expansions coming out this month, some of which are the previous scenario where it was like a game from a while ago is getting an expansion, and some of these, the game just came out and it's also getting an expansion. So I hope you find something here that you're interested in and that you're excited about. All right, here we go. Top expansions coming to retail in February. Asmodee and CMON are releasing Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night City Families and Outcasts expansion. This is one of those with the game that just came out. I included Cyberpunk 2077 in my best new games hitting retail that came out, earlier this month. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game where each player is controlling a different gang and trying to, get control of the city. Each of the gangs have different characters and asymmetric abilities and that sort of stuff, and you are fighting for control of the main board. Well, one of the main things that this expansion adds is it adds a 7th district to the board, the Badlands. So they're just sort of different regions on the board. And so this is a new region to explore during the game. It also brings one brand new story and 2 more gangs to the game. So a couple of more asymmetric ability gangs to explore. And then also, one of the nice things about this is it increases the game's maximum player count to 5. So whereas the base game is a 2 to 4 player game, this is a 2 to 5 player game, plays in 90 to 120 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. If you want to go the other route, expansions for games that have already exist, Fantasy Flight, I don't know why I said it weird like that, Fantasy Flight Games, in association with Asmodee, is releasing 2 expansions to Arkham Horror, the card game. We have Arkham Horror, The Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. And so Arkham Horror is a card game that has a lot of content already. And I love people get really into Arkham Horror, the card game. The storage boxes I've seen people have for this game are among some of the most impressive game accessories that I've ever seen while being in the hobby. And so the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion adds a wealth of new player cards and options for deck building, including brand new bonded cards and cards that make use of Bless and Curse tokens. So if you like a horror theme, a dark theme, if you want a cooperative card game that has a lot of content, then this adds even more content to the game. And then the second one that they're releasing is the Feast of Hemlock Vale campaign expansion. So as the name suggests, this adds a whole campaign to the game. You play as 1 to 4 investigators traveling to Hemlock Isle, a island shrouded in mystery that has only recently opened up to visitors. And so this expansion contains the entirety of the Feast of Hemlock Vale campaign. So, you need the base game, Arkham Horror card game, but then you can jump in with a cool storyline here. With the Feast of Hemlock Vale. I love that title. Ooh, the Feast of... That sounds real creepy, doesn't it? That sounds like there's a cult in a forest. The Feast of Hemlock Vale. Asmodee and Repos Productions are releasing Seven Wonders Architects Medals. This is an expansion to Seven Wonders Architects. Seven Wonders Architects came out only a couple of years ago. It was a sort of re-implementation, a more family weight version of the game Seven Wonders. So Seven Wonders, very classic game that got a lot of people into the hobby, and then they did a two-player only version of it called Seven Wonders Duel, and then Seven Wonders Architects was making it a more accessible game, easy to teach, quicker playtime, that sort of thing. And so what this Metals expansion does, it does a few different things, but the main thing it does is it adds a new game element, metals. At the start of play, you'll draw random metals and place them between each pair of players around the table, and then when either of these players meets the condition showing on the metal, they can flip it and get 4 points for the game's end. So just another route to getting points and stuff in the game. The expansion also adds 2 new wonders, and Rome, and it adds new science tokens. So you have a new way to win the game, more science tokens to explore. Science tokens are one of the main ways to win the game. The other thing I like about the Seven Wonders world, Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Architects, is they are strategic games, not party games that play 7 players. So if you're looking for a strategy game that plays more players, this plays 2 to 7 players in about 25 minutes. Asmodee and Awakened Realms are releasing 2 expansions to ISS Vanguard. ISS Vanguard came out a year or 2 ago, and it is a big campaign cooperative storytelling game set in space. You know, you are moving around to different planets, exploring different planets, upgrading characters, but you know, one of the big selling points of it, big story element in the game. You get to explore different branching narratives and that sort of stuff. And so the first expansion, of which I'll talk about, is Deadly Frontier. This is a full add-on campaign centered on a group of survivors who build a new home in the far reaches of the galaxy. So, you know, if you've played through all of the story of ISS Vanguard, there's a lot of story in it, so I would be impressed if you've played through the entire story. But this has a bunch more story to add to the game. It's got a new logbook with 80-plus pages of exciting story. There's new ships, there's new models, there's over 700 cards. Just a lot more that adds to the story of ISS Vanguard. And then the other expansion that Asmodee and Awakened Realms are releasing for the game is ISS Vanguard: The Lost Fleet. And The Lost Fleet is another new campaign to add into the game. This is ISS Vanguard: The Lost Fleet is the stretch goals from the campaign. So ISS Vanguard had a big crowdfunding campaign, earned a lot of money, and now stuff is coming to retail. So this is the first time these stretch goals from the campaign are hitting retail on them by themselves. So this box increases the replayability and variance of ISS Vanguard, adds a whole new goal, new system maps, new planets, new threats, new equipment and abilities, new upgrades, all of that sort of stuff. So if you want more story to play through, you got a few options for that. Next up, we have Flat River Group and Horrible Guild are releasing Evergreen Pines and Cacti expansion. Evergreen is a game that came out fairly recently, I think just last year, or maybe the year before. But it was another nature-based game, but you had your own planet and you were getting to put these little 3-dimensional pieces on the planet, so it had a real good table presence, and you know, those things represented different trees and plants and things like that. This adds 2 new plant types to the game. Pines they long for sunlight, and so they spontaneously grow into big pines when they are in the shadow at the end of the season. And cacti can grow very quickly, but they need a lot of light to survive. If they were ever in the shadow at the end of the season, they die. So I love I love the table presence of this game for sure. Plays 1 to 4 players in about 45 minutes. If you want a nature game, this is another good nature game. There's a lot of them in that world, but a lot of them are good, you know? So if you want nature-based games, the industry has you covered. That is for sure. Lucky Duck Games is releasing a couple of expansions to their game Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. So Lucky Duck actually released a game, a board game, a tabletop game about Kingdom Rush several years ago, and now they're sort of re-implementing that game, making it a new version with Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. That's in my new editions video this month. So this is an expansion for this sort of new edition of Kingdom Rush. And Kingdom Rush, if you don't know, is a very popular sort of computer app game. It's a tower defense game. And the tabletop game is that same thing too. It's a cooperative tower defense game, a lot of monsters coming at you. You got to beat them all and survive. So the first expansion I'll talk about is the Dark Elf Slayer expansion. And in this expansion, you're going to find a bunch of new heroes, and there are 4 new scenarios that you'll encounter in the game. So that's one of the things I like about Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising is it is a campaign game, but each scenario is individually playable. You don't have to go along the campaign if you don't want to. You can just play a sort of one-off scenario, but then if you play the campaign, there is some storyline that goes through with it and that sort of thing. So this expansion, the Dark Elf Slayer expansion, adds 4 new scenarios that you'll encounter in the game, including Dragon Tower mods, a new mini-boss, and more. And so if you want more sort of scenarios, more storyline, more options for Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising, you got that. And then the other one that they're doing, which is hitting retail right now, is the Gnomish Gnonsense expansion. This also adds 4 new scenarios to the game. So just a lot more content for Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. This Gnomish Gnonsense expansion includes Gnome Trickster Tower mods, a new mini-boss, and the gigantic Hammers of Zizix. That's not what that is, but I don't know. Zizzy! I don't know. I've never played Kingdom Rush on my app. I'm not a big app gamer on my phone. It just takes up... You get sucked in too much. I deleted them off of my phone because you get sucked in too much. And so I want to play a tabletop version because then I can walk away and go back on my phone later. You know, that's my plan. Ravensburger is releasing a new set for their TCG Disney Lorcana. So this is Into the Inklands. Lorcana is a tradable card game that is meant to be sort of more accessible than something like Magic the Gathering. One, it features all of the Disney characters and artwork that you know and love, but even then, it's also just sort of an easier rule set, an easier way to get into tradable card games. This is just a whole new set of cards, you know, going to be adding different characters, adding different abilities, adding all that sort of stuff. So if you're a fan of Lorcana, here is more for you. One of the things that I like that they're doing is that they are releasing into hobby stores before then going into big box stores. So hobby stores have a little bit of a head start on the new sets and the new cards. So Into the Inklands will actually be available at hobby stores on February 23rd, and then you can find it in the mass retailers, you know, the Targets of the world, on March 8th. But, you know, I always recommend supporting friendly local game stores if you can, and so they will have this by the end of the month. Into the Inklands, a new set for Lorcana. Renegade Game Studios is releasing a couple of expansions to their game Robo Rally. Robo Rally is a game that they re-implemented only a few months ago. You know, it was an older game and they made a new updated version with new artwork and new cool maps and boards and that sort of stuff. And And so this is an expansion for this sort of new edition of Robo Rally. The first one I'll mention is Master Builder. So I should back up and say Robo Rally is a racing programming game. You are planning your robots and racing around a course, and there's going to be different things on the course, obstacles and stuff like that. And so you're trying to do it as fast as you can. Well, this expansion, the Master Builder expansion, Robo Rally, the base game, comes just like with one big board. This splits the board into 6x6 grid sections, and so you can kind of build the board that you want to build. You can customize it and flip different tiles and place things in different locations, and it just gives you a lot of variability on the setup for the game of Robo Rally. It allows you to explore sort of different crazy, silly racetracks if you want to do that. So yeah, and there's other stuff, there's upgrade cards and things like that, but it's mostly about that sort of customizable board. And then the next one I'll talk about from Renegade Game Studios is Robo Rally Thrills and Spills expansion. This adds 3 new double-sided game boards with features including elements like flamers, oil slicks, and portals. So, again, it's a fairly silly, lighter game. It still plays in like an hour, plays 2 to 6 players, but it's about adding these just sort of new obstacles and new silly elements that you have to take into account when you're trying to race around the race course. And so, yeah, if you like silliness, then this is a silly racing game, Robo Rally, and Thrills and Spills adds new fun elements to the game. So that's what I got for you. Those are all of the expansions hitting retail in the month of February. Again, I hope you found something that you're excited about. If you want to support me and the series here of all these different retail videos that I do, they take a lot of work. I gotta talk to a lot of different publishers for them, but I have a Patreon, patreon.com/GrantsGameRex. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody. Hope you're playing some great games out there.